Zenari pilot Pixis screamed in agony as her battered ship impaled itself upon the jutting rocks, shockwaves racking her lithe frame. Warning sirens blared in frantic warbles as Pixis stumbled out of the ship's hatch onto an unfamiliar barren landscape, her heart thudding in terror at the realization that she was hopelessly marooned. With engines destroyed beyond repair and comms shattered, not one of her people knew where she'd crashed or if she still drew breath. No rescue would come. She would die here, forgotten and unmourned, her remains forever lost on this nameless rock. The weight of her inevitable lonely demise pressed upon her soul. Then a human emerged from behind an outcropping, his eyes wide with shock at the sight of her crumpled ship. He introduced himself as Gerald Coleman, a lone prospector working this desolate world. Without hesitation, he offered Pixis aid and shelter, extending a helping hand to a stranded alien without thought of recompense. In the days that followed, an unlikely bond blossomed as Gerald worked tirelessly alongside Pixis to restore her vessel to functionality. His resourcefulness and compassion touched something deep within the hardened Zenari warrior. Despite a lifetime of distrust for outsiders, she found her icy reserve thawing in the light of Gerald's inherent decency. The human's simple acts of kindness and dedicated effort to deliver Pixis from certain death stirred foreign feelings, the likes of which she'd never experienced. As hours turned to days in shared purpose, Pixis felt the first tentative stirrings of a strange new emotion taking root in her chest, one she scarcely dared to name, even within the privacy of her own mind. She'd always believed love to be the purview of sentimental fools, a weakness to be purged, and yet the way her heart raced in Gerald's presence gave lie to a lifetime of ingrained dogma. Could she dare to dream that a future might exist for a jaded Zenari soldier and her human savior? Or would the gulf between their disparate cultures prove an unbridgeable chasm? Zeph nods thoughtfully as Pixis recounts her experiences with Gerald on the desolate planet. It sounds like he was a true friend and ally in your time of need. The way he worked alongside you, sharing his knowledge and improvising solutions. That's the kind of resourcefulness and dedication that sets humans apart. Pixis smiles, her eyes distant as she recalls those trying days. Indeed, no matter how bleak our situation seemed, Gerald remained steadfast. He had a way of lifting my spirits with his optimism and determination. Even when I was ready to give up, he pushed forward, never losing faith that we would find a way. That kind of unwavering support is invaluable, Zeph agrees. Especially in such dire circumstances. It's a testament to his character. And to the strength of the human spirit, Pixis adds. Gerald shared stories of the challenges his people had faced and overcome throughout their history. Tales of perseverance, innovation, and unity in the face of adversity. It gave me hope that we too could find a way to survive. Zeph leans forward, curiosity sparking in his eyes. But it wasn't just his technical skills and optimism that impressed you, was it? You said there was a particular moment when you realized the depth of your feelings for him. Pixis nods, her expression growing serious. Yes, one day while we were out scavenging for parts, we were caught off guard by a vicious predator native to the planet. It attacked without warning, and I was injured in the fray. Zeph's eyes widen. What happened then? Gerald, without hesitation, placed himself between me and the creature. Armed with nothing more than a makeshift weapon, he fought it off, risking his own life to protect mine. I had never witnessed such selfless bravery before. Pixis pauses, emotion thick in her voice. He saved your life, Zeph breathes, awe evident in his tone. Yes, but it was more than that, Pixis confesses. In that moment, as I watched him stand his ground against the beast, I realized the true depth of my feelings for him. It wasn't just gratitude or admiration. It was love. I loved him for his courage, his compassion, his intelligence, and his unwavering support. He was unlike anyone I had ever met, human or Zenari. Zeph sits back, processing this revelation. That's quite a realization to come to, especially in such a perilous situation. But what happened next? Did you tell him how you felt? Pixis looks away, her expression a mix of longing and uncertainty. Not immediately. There was still so much work to be done on the ship, and I wasn't sure if he felt the same way. But as we continued to work side by side, day after day, I couldn't help but hope that maybe, just maybe, he might come to love me too. Zeph leans in, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. So did you ever find out if he felt the same way about you? Pixis nods, a warm smile spreading across her face. As we worked side by side, day after day, Gerald and I grew even closer. We spent long hours talking about everything under the stars, sharing our hopes and dreams for the future. I told him about my life among the Zenari, the rigid hierarchy and the constant pressure to prove one's worth through combat. He listened with such understanding and empathy, never judging me for my past. Her expression softens, lost in the memory. One evening, as we sat together watching the twin moons rise over the horizon, Gerald turned to me and confessed his feelings. He said he had never met anyone like me, someone so strong, yet so compassionate. He told me he couldn't imagine his life without me in it. Zeph grins, his tail twitching with excitement. I knew it, so what did you do? Pixis blushes, her scales shimmering in the soft light of the cockpit. I told him I felt the same way, that I had fallen for him, not just for his bravery or his intelligence, but for the way he saw me as more than just a soldier. He made me feel valued, cherished even. We shared our first kiss under the starlit sky, and in that moment everything seemed perfect. Zeph sighs, his eyes misty. That's beautiful, but I sense there's more to the story. What happened when the repairs were finally finished? Pixis's expression turns bittersweet. When my ship was ready to fly again, I knew I had to return to my people. The Zenari needed to know about the potential for peace and cooperation with humans, but it meant leaving Gerald behind on that desolate planet. Zeph nods, understanding the weight of the decision. That must have been incredibly hard. How did he take the news? Pixis continues, her voice soft. He was supportive, as always. He told me that he understood my responsibilities and that he would wait for me, no matter how long it took. As a parting gift, he gave me a small pendant crafted from the materials we had gathered during our time together. He said it would remind me of him and of the love we shared. Zeph smiles, touched by the gesture. That's incredibly romantic, but I have to ask, did you ever see him again after you left? Pixis looks out at the stars, her heart full of longing. Not yet, but I made a promise to return to him, and I intend to keep it. The Zenari have much to learn from humans, and I believe our love can be a bridge between our two species. Gerald showed me that there is so much more to life than conflict and competition. He taught me the value of compassion, of understanding, and for that I will always be grateful. Zeph listens intently as Pixis recounts her efforts to convince the Zenari leadership of the potential for an alliance with humans. He nods, impressed by her ingenuity in adapting Gerald's knowledge to solve the Zenari's energy crisis. That's remarkable, Pixis. Using human technology to create more efficient solar panels, that must have caught the attention of the higher-ups. Pixis smiles, a hint of pride in her voice. It did. They were skeptical at first, but when they saw the results, they couldn't deny the impact it could have on our society. It was a turning point in the discussions. I can imagine, Zeph agrees, but it wasn't just the technological advancements that swayed them, was it? Pixis shakes her head. No, it was more than that. I shared stories of Gerald's compassion and bravery, how he was willing to help me, a complete stranger, without hesitation. I argued that if one human could show such kindness, then perhaps our species had more in common than we realized. Zeph leans forward, his eyes alight with curiosity. And your own feelings for Gerald, did they play a role in your arguments? Pixis feels a warmth spread across her cheeks. Yes, I suppose they did. I spoke of the love we shared and how it transcended the boundaries of species and culture. I believed that if Gerald and I could find such a deep connection, then there was hope for our peoples to find common ground. Zeph nods, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. That's a powerful message, Pixis. Love has a way of breaking down barriers and opening minds. It does, Pixis agrees, her voice softening. And it was that love that gave me the courage to keep pushing, even when the discussions seemed to stall. Zeph sits back, his expression thoughtful. So what happened next? Did the Zanari leaders agree to reach out to the humans? Pixis takes a deep breath, the weight of the moment settling on her shoulders. They did, but it wasn't an easy decision. There was still so much uncertainty, so many questions left unanswered. We knew we had to proceed cautiously, for the sake of both our peoples. Zeph nods, understanding the gravity of the situation. Of course, a decision like that couldn't be made lightly. There were risks involved, and the consequences could have been far-reaching. Pixis sighs, her gaze distant. Exactly. We had to consider every angle, every potential outcome. It was a delicate balance, trying to forge a new path while still protecting our own interests. Zeph leans in, his voice low. But you didn't give up, did you? You kept pushing, kept advocating for the alliance. Pixis meets his gaze, a fire burning in her eyes. No, I didn't give up, I couldn't. Not when I knew the potential for what we could achieve together. Not when I had seen firsthand the goodness and strength of the human spirit in Gerald. Zeph smiles, admiration clear in his expression. Your determination is truly inspiring, Pixis. But I have to ask, how did the Zanari leadership finally come to a decision? What tipped the scales in favor of reaching out to the humans? Pixis pauses, the memory of those tense discussions flooding back. She takes a steadying breath, preparing to recount the pivotal moment that changed everything. Pixis's voice trembles as she recounts the moment she learned of Gerald's fate. When our delegation arrived on Earth, we were greeted by a somber group of human officials. They invited us to a private meeting room, their faces etched with a sadness I couldn't quite comprehend. Zeph leans forward, his brow furrowed. What did they tell you? Pixis takes a shaky breath, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. They informed me that Gerald had passed away a year after I left. He had been helping to rebuild a village that had been devastated by a massive earthquake. During the rescue efforts, there was an aftershock and a building collapsed. She pauses, her voice catching in her throat. Gerald rushed in to save a group of children who were trapped inside. He managed to get them out, but he was caught in the rubble himself. They tried to save him, but his injuries were too severe. Zeph's eyes widen, a mix of shock and admiration on his face. He died a hero. Pixis nods, a single tear rolling down her cheek. Yes, he did. The officials told me that his bravery and selflessness had saved countless lives that day, but it came at the cost of his own. Zeph reaches out, placing a comforting hand on Pixis's shoulder. I'm so sorry, Pixis. I can't imagine the pain you must have felt in that moment. Pixis closes her eyes, the memories of that day washing over her. It was like my world had shattered. I had always held on to the hope that Gerald and I would be reunited, that our love would be a shining example of what our two species could achieve together. But now, that dream was gone. Zeph nods, his expression somber. It's a tragic loss, not just for you, but for the potential of our alliance. Pixis takes a deep breath, steeling herself. That's what I thought at first too, but then I met with Gerald's family and friends. They welcomed me with open arms, sharing stories of his life and the impact he had on those around him. A small smile plays on her lips. They told me about his kindness, his curiosity, and his unwavering belief in the goodness of others. They said that he had always spoken of our time together with such fondness, and that he believed in the power of our love to change the world. Zeph tilts his head, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. So even in death he brought people together. Pixis nods, a fierce determination burning in her gaze. Yes, he did. His family and friends supported the idea of an alliance, knowing it was what Gerald would have wanted. They saw our love as a symbol of what could be achieved when two cultures come together in understanding and respect. Zeph sits back, a look of admiration on his face. That's a testament to the kind of person Gerald was, to inspire such unity and purpose even after he was gone. Pixis reaches up, clutching the pendant that hangs around her neck. He was one of a kind, Zeph, a true beacon of hope in a universe that can be so dark and unforgiving. She turns to look out the window, her eyes fixed on the stars that stretch out before them. I made a promise to myself that day. As I stood among Gerald's loved ones, I vowed to carry on his legacy, to fight for the alliance we had dreamed of building together. Zeph nods, a solemn understanding passing between them. And that's exactly what you've done, Pixis. The alliance has grown stronger with each passing year, a testament to the love you shared and the vision you fought for. Pixis smiles, a bittersweet mix of pride and longing in her expression. It hasn't been easy, Zeph. There have been times when I've wanted to give up, to let the grief consume me. But then I remember Gerald's strength, his unwavering belief in the power of connection and compassion. She turns back to face her friend, a single tear glistening on her cheek. He may be gone, but his spirit lives on in the work we do, in the bonds we forge between our peoples, and in the love that still burns in my heart, a love that will endure for as long as I draw breath. Zeph reaches out, clasping Pixis's hand in his own, and that, my dear friend, is the most powerful legacy of all. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.